everyone. I'm Lindsay Lewis, editor of Building Enclosure. Thanks for listening along with us today. This episode, I'm joined by Tasha Jones, creator of Espire Collective, a talent marketplace designed to connect companies with high caliber professionals in the construction industry. Tasha, a U.S. military intelligence analyst turned government contract simplifier for small businesses, is here to chat about how Espire helps AEC firms build long-term relationships with highly skilled professionals. Tasha, thanks for sitting with me.
Thank you so much for having me, Lindsay.
So to kick off, many firms struggle with hiring for specialized or short-term needs. Now, how does Espire help design firms fill high-level talent gaps without overextending their permanent staff?
So I would hedge to say that a lot of architecture and engineering firms don't actually have a talent problem. It's more so around a timing problem. The expertise they need is often situational and not permanent. And so, when its industry alone is more episodic in its demand, and the workforce data that I've been able to see and just witness directly around engineering firms, they report, persistent shortages of, specialized expertise around like project controls, compliance, and digital integration. And so I do believe that what we've developed and how we support specialized skilled talent within the collective, we're enabling those people, those consultants and micro boutique firms, which are 2 to 5 members working together. We're helping them understand governance, compliance with their own businesses, and helping them to pursue opportunities. So when AE firms need those specialized resources, they can quickly provide those quotes and those opportunities, fill in the gaps where they need, and they can pull those resources in only when needed. There's no need to always have everything on payroll.
Now, for those firms that operate with leaner teams, how can a vetted talent marketplace support growth during peak workloads, complex pursuits, or even firm transformations?
During peak workflows, I would say most industries, and definitely in the construction industry, there are cycles and seasons of where there's certain compliance reporting that's required. If they are pursuing opportunities that are more public sector based and it's proposal based, there's usually a response schedule for delivering or developing that proposal for the opportunities. And so all of these different use cases provide opportunity to plan in advance what the needs are, and where a lean firm may have gaps around certain areas that they're pursuing, either an opportunity as a proposal or whether they have to be responsive for a new regulatory or statutory requirement that's going to be coming down, and they have by X date to get something delivered. In these ways, I do believe that having access to a talent pool that is being supported with the shared governance infrastructure helps those firms mitigate that risk associated with pulling that talent in on a moment's notice. We're able to provide those a quote and responsiveness to those firms within a week. And so it often takes a lot longer than that to identify talent that actually meets the requirements that a firm needs, but then also to vet, flesh that out, and then onboard them. And with Espire, we're simplifying that process.
Now, I want to go back to something you said earlier. You mentioned compliance. So following up on that, public sector projects often require strict compliance and document standards. So how does Espire ensure that professionals in its network are equipped to handle federal requirements and government contracting environments?
So public sector work isn't just about technical delivery. It's also about navigating, the complexity with that compliance. Things like, the federal acquisition regulations or FAR, Davis-Bacon is a prevailing wage requirement that a lot of construction and A&E firms have to deal with, federal reporting standards and then oversight. With infrastructure investment programs expanding, billions in federal funding around flowing, infrastructure projects and increasing compliance demands, our advantage that we bring is managing a network of members who come from federal contracting environments. Also, our internal team has pretty expansive experience. I myself actually grew up in the federal government marketplace, in the public sector marketplace, and across every subsection of that marketplace. So state, local education, which is SLED, federal civilian agencies, as well as defense and intelligence agencies. We have experience across the birth of that. And the core company that partners with Espire also is a GovCon business. So a lot of our although we're private sector first, a lot of our membership and our supports enables going after public sector opportunities. And we vet our talent to identify which markets that they are interested in pursuing. And we ask very specific questions around how they're structured. Are they legitimate entities? What types of insurance they have? How many years experience have they had? And we do due diligence on the background to show that they've delivered successfully across the services and solutions that they state they've done, whether they're an independent consultant or a boutique firm that's a part of our collective.
So from an ownership or principal perspective, hiring the wrong consultant could always introduce a risk to schedule, budget, even sometimes reputation. So how does your vetting process reduce that risk for firms?
Just recapping on what I previously stated is that a lot of the firms, we do have members who come in and they are at our lower tiers where, they may have been taking on projects in addition to their W-2 job, and they're trying to consider or adjust, their ability to go after clients to replace their W-2 position, but they want to be independent. For those clients that are a part of Espire, we're nurturing them internally to help them to become ready, but they must be experienced and in the vetting process actually show that delivery. We only place our consultants who are part of the collective on engagements that are compliant. So that means that we validated they have the appropriate insurances. We validated that they're certified in the verticals that are required, especially when we're talking public sector opportunities. Sometimes maybe they need a project manager, but the requirements for the statement of work or that contract deliverable says they need to be, Prince 2 or a PMI, PMP certified, professional. So we make sure that in that vetting process, we have that information. We have validation and confirmation of those certifications in our member profiles. And then we also make sure if there's any gaps. So if a client needs a team versus an individual, if there's any gaps, we ensure that that team cohesively aligns with the compliance requirements and that they are up to date before we place them on any engagements that we execute for our clients of Espire.
Now, I read something recently about firms utilizing fractional executives or consultants. So I guess my question for you would be, in what scenario would a firm benefit most from bringing in this fractional COO, compliance lead, or project executive?
Yeah, that's a good one. I'd say the best time to bring in experienced external leadership is when you're seeing complexity spike faster than the organization can structurally adapt. You don't really have time to go out to search and find, specific talent that actually aligns that have that good fit with your company and all the things. Sometimes you need more time to really get that perfect fit. And finding a fractional resource isn't about replacing. It's about stopgapping and providing capability in the middle. That's a perfect time to bring in a fractional resource or a fractional leader. And the benefit to that, it gives you more time to actually find that full-time fit, but it also allows you to have resources developed and information put in place, processes designed that full-time hire can actually own and adopt once they come in. And it takes the burden off of your internal staff, which are already operating in a lean capacity. It takes that stressor off of that internal operations for you to be able to execute and accelerate what you're trying to go after for that time period within your organization.
Another question I have for you. So architects often lose time navigating contracts and paperwork. So how does Espire streamline contracting, compliance, and onboarding so firms can stay focused on design and delivery?
Yeah, large infrastructure projects are an exercise in coordination, and not just engineering. And so we have several members that touch across all of the full life cycle when it comes to, infrastructure engagements. We have members who have experience that from a capture perspective where they have expertise to know how to evaluate a client who you're submitting that bid to, and to find like nuanced information regarding what may be influencing or what may have influenced this requirement or need for them to bring in a partner. And using that information, we have people who also are very deep and well into the proposal development, with proposal development capabilities and skill sets, leveraging that capture information to create nuanced and competitive proposals, and compliant proposals, because that's a big part of it too. You can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on how big the engagement is, pursuing an opportunity, and be non-compliant for a public sector type of opportunity, and have your proposal thrown out just because you didn't meet certain criteria. And so a lot of our members do have that expertise in acquisitions and in contracts and proposal development. And these are things that very, very large firms tend to have internal teams. But when we're talking mid-sector businesses and smaller firms, these are, you may have a subset of the resources you need to do this well. And this is another area we're bringing in that external talent to support on specific engagements, to take the weight off, to let you increase the volume and capacity of bidding and being able to do that in a way that's smarter.
Lastly, I do want to ask, as our industry evolves, how do you see talent marketplaces like Espire reshaping how firms build their teams and pursue projects?
So I see talent solutions, there's a spectrum of talent solutions that are available, and they need to be applied accordingly. And what I mean by that is that, we have the traditional consultant firms, and they run the gamut from your individual consultant all the way up to your big tens, right? Your Accentures, your Booz Allen's, Gartners, all the big firms, and everything in the middle. And those are more, I would say, traditional type firm structures. And then we have marketplaces, like a Upwork or a Catalant. I think TopTal falls in that. And you have a range of those that go from gig working to more consultant type based work. And then you have what Espire is, which I think is a new context and a new take on a market, on what we see and is being called as a marketplace. And we consider Espire to be a talent solution versus a marketplace, because our consultants are partners who are in a collective that's providing shared governance, resources, information, and actually profit share, so that they can scale how they pursue and go after opportunities. I see in the future this particular type of structure becoming more prevalent, because companies are getting tired of the traditional large consultancy coming in with the advisory and the bloatware that kind of comes with that, and not really having the execution piece unless they add additional costs when it's already very expensive, because margins are getting tighter, especially with the tariff wars and just the shifts in the central banks and how, economics are just changing globally. And then they also don't want the headache of having to go into a marketplace and source amongst thousands of small businesses that exist. The U.S. has over 90% of its small businesses, or 90% of its businesses are small. And globally, over 90% of the businesses are small. And these are, how do you differentiate who does a good job, who does it well, who has done what you're looking for in a way that's effective, and you won't have to add additional management and overload. So I know this is a little bit long-winded question, but I really wanted to shape or answer to the question. I wanted to shape the difference of Espire is that we enable those small businesses not only to go after the work, so they're not sitting and waiting for us to partner or match them to an engagement. We are working with them for them to build and harden their infrastructure and ensure that it's compliant, and then letting them leverage a platform that is like business development as a service, where we're helping them increase their capability to pursue opportunities and ensure that they are structured in a way that benefits the clients and the mid-market larger firms that we're supporting on the outside. So it's accelerating expertise talent to enterprise execution.
If anyone wants to learn more about Espire, where can they go to?
They can catch up with us on our website at theespirecollective.com. And that's the Aspire is spelled ESPIRE collective.com. We're also on LinkedIn. If you look up the Espire Collective, we're there, as well as in Instagram. So same, the Espire Collective. We've been pretty lucky with being able to have our name as just the only thing and no extras.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, Tasha, for your time today.
No, thanks for having me, Lindsay. This is great.
If anyone listening has any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Tasha, and we'd love to continue the conversation. Until next time, visit us on buildingclosureonline.com for your technical and educational resources.